It is April 1st, 2023, and I'm going to resist the urge to pull any April Fool's jokes on you. Instead, we're just going to do the regular standard update video in which I'll tell you about what we've got coming up in April and what you might have missed in the month of March. I always like to begin by talking about three big things, and I actually do have three pretty significant things on the horizon or already, you could say, in the bag. So, big thing number one, probably the biggest of them all, I am going to be offering some summer classes online, and I'm going to be putting out some videos about these and stuff in social media in the coming weeks. I'll be teaching about Descartes and Aristotle and Plato and the philosophy of friendship. So stay tuned for that. Big thing number two, I have finally gotten into the groove and started publishing more frequently in Medium, which I plan to use as one of my main platforms for written works, short public philosophy stuff. And big thing number three is that I have restarted the Ideas That Matter conversations about important topics in philosophy and other stuff with an interview with a good friend and colleague, Massimo Pigliucci, about Ciceronian eclecticism, and I plan to be continuing quite a few more of these in the coming months and perhaps for years to come. So those are the three big things. Let's talk now about March. March, as usual, was quite a busy month and a lot of online events, some of them hosted on my platform, some on others. So actually, let me start talking about one that I did with somebody else. I went on the Chatting with Nuts with Jimmy Nuts, and we talked about speculative fiction. The conversation went so well that we're going to do another one down the line after he's finished with the Earthsea series by Ursula K. Le Guin. We talked about some general stuff for about 2 hours, and we're going to focus in on Earthsea next, so that'll be coming up. I also did my Worlds of Speculative Fiction. This month, we focused on Kim Stanley Robinson's Mars Trilogy, looking at the first two books in that, and it was quite good. Those are some excellent works. I did my usual AMA, and we did another self-directed study providing advice, this time about how to study Hegelian philosophy, or specifically Hegel's philosophy. We had a couple Wisdom for Life shows that aired that you can watch. I also, as I mentioned, did the Ideas That Matter interview with Massimo Pigliucci, and we had a really great conversation about close to 90 minutes about all sorts of things centering on Ciceronian eclecticism. So that means like thinking about ancient philosophy, modern times, how it is that we appropriate these sorts of things. And just recently, my interview with Radio Uninvited about the nature of doing philosophy and a little bit of my backstory as well aired. I've had, academic classes ongoing at Marquette University, where I'm teaching a class specifically on anger and justice, and two classes at Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design, an Intro to Humanities and a Philosophy, Mindfulness, and Life, which is oriented around philosophies as ways of life. And, we've been exploring mostly Stoicism and Cynicism this month, and we're getting close to wrapping up with those. I've also been doing a lot of work with clients, doing philosophical counseling and tutorials, and some consulting work as well. I did write, as I mentioned, a number of Medium posts. One of them was actually a roundup of my various writings on Stoicism in Medium. At this point, I've got about 54 articles, so you could check that out. I also did a few things about heavy metal, classic metal class number 15, one about my first metal album, which was Kiss Destroyer. And then a lot of stuff about Stoicism, 2 things on Seneca and anger management, some more Epictetus and Enchiridion commentary stuff, Stoic fortitude, failing and failures. There's 2 posts on that. And then I did some other things. One about Tolkien videos, sort of a roundup of the videos that I did in speculative fiction studies a while back on fairy tales. I did one recently on the paradox of care, something I'm going to expand out into eventually, like an entire book, and a few other things having to do with memories of time and some playing around with ChatGPT. So a lot of stuff on the writing front in Medium, which I'm happy about because I do want to work there quite a bit more. I did also shoot a lot of videos in addition to all of these event videos, for Worlds of Speculative Fiction or the AMA or things like that. We also did some core concept videos for my classes. Seneca's on anger, got into book 2. I'm going to be doing book 3 later on. The Cynic epistles that are attributed to Crates, not actually by Crates most likely, but certainly attributed to him. And recently I've started doing some on Marcus Aurelius's meditations that I know people have been asking for and looking forward to for quite a while. I also got to 3 Sadler's Stories videos, and those are always fun to record. And of course, we had the Ideas That Matter video as well. Podcast-wise, I did, in fact, release quite a few podcast episodes. We finished up the series on Aquinas and his discussions of anger, and then we jumped into Aristotle, book 7, went through all of those. And by the way, I now have not just video lectures, but podcast episodes on every single topic in the Nicomachean Ethics, which is, quite a lot. And then we got into Blaise Pascal. I've been, redoing some video work and turning them into podcasts about his pensées. And we'll probably continue on with those. So pretty busy month in March, a lot going on. And I should mention, too, that we had our Understanding Anger 2.0 class. We focused on Plato. That was a lot of fun. So those are all the things that we did in March. Right, so coming up in April, I'm releasing this on the 1st in what's my morning, and shortly after this, if you want to, you've got the opportunity to jump in on a conversation that I've been invited to on somebody else's platform. Acid Horizon is bringing me in as a guest again to talk about ancient philosophy and views on the emotion of anger, something I'm a specialist in and should be a good conversation. That will be happening at noon Central Time today, the 1st of April. And you can find links to everything below in the video description, so you can always find where to go for these. On the 8th, we will have, at noon Central Time, we'll have my usual AMA, that is Ask Me Anything session. You can pop in and get answers, not just about philosophy, but other things as well. My views on politics, heavy metal, things that I've talked about in other videos that you're curious about. Also on the 8th, following the AMA, for Patreon supporters, we will have a philosophy chat, which is a much more intimate video conferencing session where people can, get some more intensive discussion or Q&A about things that they're interested in. Following that, on the 9th, we will be having the next Sadler's storytelling video, which is sort of a live event. It's basically just me sitting there reading one of my favorite short stories. This time, it's one of my favorite short stories by Jorge Luis Borges, The Lottery at Babylon, a short piece that I've been thinking about basically since I read it as an undergraduate back in the early 90s. On the 12th at 5 p.m., we'll have our public monthly Hegel Q&A and discussion session. You can pop in, get answers about Hegel, who's rather confusing, about German idealism, about philosophy more generally. That's a video conferencing session. On the 15th at noon Central Time, we'll be having Understanding Anger 2.0 class session 3. Now that, if you want to do that, you've got to enroll in the free class in the Reason.io Academy, and then you get the Zoom link and you can participate. We're going to be discussing anger in Plato's Dialogues, Take 2, a more systematic approach, looking at it in the Republic, the Phaedrus, and in the Timaeus. So obviously we're focusing on the tripartite soul and the faculty of thumos, right? Then on the 16th at 11 a.m., and it's 11 a.m. so that I can afterwards go out and visit with some cats at a cat shelter. We will be having the next self-directed study advice video premiere this time around because I've been doing some videos on it and people are interested in it. Cynic philosophy, which presents a particular challenge given that we don't have any of the original texts from the first several generations of the Cynics. How do you study this sort of thing? I'll be giving you some advice about that, and you can join in, ask questions, and see what it is that I have to say, whether it's any help or not. The next weekend, and I'm not quite sure when it's going to be scheduled, but I will be reading a paper here in Wisconsin, specifically at Marquette University, which is hosting the Wisconsin Philosophical Association meeting. It'll either be on the 22nd or the 23rd. I will be asking and answering the question, what is public philosophy? So I made a proposal, they accepted it. Now I'm in the position of having to write the paper and present it. I'm going to try to record that. So obviously a lot of people aren't going to be able to make it here. We'll see what they're cool with as far as recording, as far as that goes. And then finally, on the 29th, we will have our Worlds of Speculative Fiction session at noon Central Time. 2 parts. We have a video premiere where we'll be doing the third book in the Mars series by Kim Stanley Robinson, Blue Mars. Might bring in some short stories from The Martians as well. And then following the video premiere and live chat, we always have a video conferencing to follow up and have some additional discussion. So that should be a lot of fun. I'm going to be doing a lot of writing this month. I'm going to be, continuing on with my classes. Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design finishes in April, but grades are due, I think, a little bit after that. Marquette goes on, I think, for another 2 weeks or so. And then it's on to summer classes after that. As far as video work goes for this coming month, I've got to get back into shooting the half-hour Hegel videos. We're so close to the end that I really want to get this thing finished, wrapped up well. So I'll try to get at least 2 or 3 videos done this month. I also have a lot of book reviews to do that I've been sitting on for a while, so we'll be prioritizing that. But we'll be doing some more of these ideas that matter, conversation, interview videos about interesting topics. I've got a few guests already lined up for these. I'll be doing some more Sadler's stories videos. And then what else? Core concept videos. These are mostly things that I'm teaching right now. So, more Marcus Aurelius, more Seneca. In this case, we're going to be looking at On the Shortness of Life. So you should see some of those coming out in the following week. weeks after we get through some Marcus Aurelius, and then we'll see where we go after that. I'm going to be shooting some stuff on John Cassian and anger. Whether it gets released in April or in May is yet to be seen. I've still got more on Seneca's On Anger to shoot as well. So lots of core concept videos. And, you might see some other one-off things pop up. Evil Sadler could raise his foolish head and, spout his nonsense. Who knows? You never know when that guy's going to pop out. And there'll be announcements about the online classes and stuff like that as well. Podcast. So, we're releasing these episodes on Pascal's Pensées. After that, it's Aristotle's Rhetoric, Book 2, The Discussions of Anger. And then we'll probably start doing some stuff on Lactantius, the great early Christian philosopher, and his own book about the anger of God that I did videos on back in, I want to say, the fall, and now we're turning them into podcast episodes. So a lot of stuff coming up this month. I'll leave you with something that's not really philosophy related, but you might find, interesting or endearing. So you heard me mention just a little bit earlier that on my Sundays, I'm often going to this cat shelter. There's a place here in Milwaukee, actually in a building that I used to work in, called Almost Home Cat Shelter. And I'm going in with no intent to adopt any new animals, just to hang out with them, play, give attention, affection, and stuff like that. And I go to what's called their open houses when you can go in. They have hours on Sundays. And, I've gotten kind of attached to these two feline leukemia positive cats. Both are quite young, Ernest and Maxine. Ernest is a little roughhouser. Maxine is rather shy, but they're both really quite sweet. And I'll put a link below if you want to contribute to them. They're a great organization. I think once the school year is over, I'm actually going to go and start volunteering there to do some of the work that's needed with these rescue animals. And so that's, good place to end. Got a new thing that I'm doing on Sundays. Started doing that back in March, and so far I've been there 3 times, and it's a really great place, good people, and wonderful little animals. So hope you have a great month ahead in April. Not like I said, you might have been listening to this waiting, where's the April Fool's joke going to be? The joke is that there is no joke. So you have fun, and maybe you can join me for the Acid Horizon thing later today. If not, I'm sure you'll see it on their video channel later on. And I will see you at some of these online events, or perhaps even face-to-face here in Milwaukee. And have a great month.